Hello. Let's take a closer look at how to mainstream gender-based violence, or GBV, risk mitigation into the assessment and analysis phases of the operations management cycle, also known as the program cycle. During the video, you will determine which actions are needed to mainstream GBV risk mitigation in the assessment phase. You will also see how to analyze the identified GBV risks. Let's start by considering the types of assessments you do. Needs assessment. Initial multi-sector assessment at community level, participatory assessment with small focus groups based on age, gender, or diversity, perhaps an in-depth assessment at individual level, or a rapid assessment at household level. Did you do a rapid gender assessment? Or a protection survey with community members, like a safety audit? Maybe you do technical sector assessments like a CAP survey on knowledge, attitudes, and practices. Consider for each assessment who was asked for information. Was only one member of the family or community asked? What were the gender dynamics? Do you know who is at risk of GBV? Or are there some groups not represented in the responses you received? Let's look at a few general issues regarding assessments. Why are we conducting this assessment? We need to know the purpose and objective. What do we need to know? What information is already available? What information is still needed? Think first about selection of the correct or relevant indicators. Which questions will ensure that I get the information for reporting against selected indicators? How do we formulate the right questions to mainstream GBV risk mitigation? We need to ensure that relevant questions are included in the assessment of different sectors. These questions should be developed together with a protection or GBV staff member. Who are we targeting? At which level? Communities, households, individuals? Data collected from persons of concern during an assessment must be at a minimum disaggregated by sex and age. This will facilitate analysis and accountability by allowing specific program outcomes to be tracked for different persons within the affected population. And with whom are we coordinating and cooperating? Also to conduct joint assessments. Ensure you are coordinating with partners, including persons of concern. We are only aware of potential GBV risks within programs when asking the right questions. Different actors and sectors or clusters should not undertake standalone GBV assessments, but should incorporate relevant questions related to GBV risks into ongoing assessments and monitoring. Remember that GBV-specific assessments should be conducted by GBV specialists. As humanitarian actors, we need to always assume that GBV, in particular, sexual violence, is occurring. At the onset of an emergency, because of underreporting and the risks associated with obtaining data, the priority is to establish GBV prevention, risk mitigation, and response measures as soon as possible. Once the essential life-saving measures are in place, more in-depth assessments can be conducted. Now you have your sector assessment responses. How should you go about analyzing the identified GBV risks? You will need to determine the contributing factors, where, when, who, at-risk groups, apply an age, gender, and diversity lens, sectors or key actors that need to take action to mitigate those GBV risks within their area of responsibility, capacity within the community to address the risk, circles of influence around the persons at risk within the context, use the ecological model, and the level of threat by gauging the likelihood of a specific GBV risk occurring and its impact on the at-risk group and others. A GBV risk may also be a group of risks that need to be broken down into parts to more clearly determine who has responsibility for putting in place risk mitigation measures for all or part of the GBV risk. This is part of the analysis. A multi-stakeholder analysis of identified GBV risks would include the UNHCR multifunctional team, partners, government actors, and the participation of persons of concern. Consider feedback from consultations with communities. Key messages. GBV risk mitigation needs to be mainstreamed in all assessment processes across sectors. Sectors and non-GBV actors are not expected to undertake assessments on the prevalence or extent of GBV. Mainstreaming GBV risk mitigation activities need to be informed by an analysis of potential GBV risks that may arise in a sector program or other area of work. Here are some additional resources to help you and your team mainstream GBV risk mitigation into the assessment and analysis phases of the operations management cycle.